Alright, so welcome to our first lesson on World War One, before the United States entry. So, there are many World War One is one of those wars that there is not one singular reason for why the war began. There are a lot of wars oftentimes have multiple reasons, but there's always usually one event that causes all the other problems to suffice or what should I say, basically all the other problems kind of fall apart and all hell breaks loose. Okay. And so most historians typically focus on four main causes for the war, and these are long term. They were built up over the previous century, over the past 100 years. So we have nationalism, imperialism, militarism, and the alliance system. And nationalism, it just means a devotion to the interest and culture of one's nation. Imperialism is economic and political control over weaker nations. Militarism is the growth of nationalism, and imperialism led to increased military spending. And then the alliance system. By 1907, Europe was divided into two armed camps. Okay? And we're going to talk about these more in each detail so you understand. So, nationalism typically led to rivalries and conflicts between different nations, and it was basically pride in one's nation. It's kind of like what we might refer to as patriotism, but in a different level. And oftentimes, nationalism causes different ethnic groups to resist domination from another power and want independence. So, countries like Russia and Austria Hungary are going to disagree over the treatment of Serbs in Central Asia. I'm sorry, Central Europe. Alright, so like here's Europe in 1914. We have several empires: the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the German Empire. France and Great Britain also have empires, even though it's not in the title. And these major powers are running the world. Okay? Alright, imperialism is something that's been going on for centuries. European nations have built empires across the world. These colonies help supply these European nations with the raw materials they need to help the markets and manufacture goods. Germany is going to industrialize, and it's going to compete directly with France and Britain in the 19th century. And other European countries will also compete for land in Africa. And we talked about this already, how European nations took over Africa. We talked about how the U.S. prevented European nations from taking over China and from being carved out in the colonies, and made a deal, with the open door notes where they could trade free trade for everyone, that sort of thing. Anyway, let's move it on. So yeah, look at all the colonial empires in 1914. So everything like Belgium, France, Great Britain, Japan, Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, even our country. We talked about that already. That's what we just got done talking about. Russia, Netherlands, Italy, Germany, and Denmark all have empires across the world. What is militarism? Well, these empires have to be defended, and having military is expensive. So the spending on military is going to grow enormously in the late 19th and early 20th century. And by the 1890, the strongest nation militarily in Europe is Germany. And Germany had a strong army and built up a navy to rival England's fleet during this time. France, Italy, and Japan and the United States also joined up in the naval system. We talked about that already with the United States, how we became the third largest naval power during this time. And after World War One, I think will still be rivaling for the world's largest navy. There's a battleship. So European nations had these all over the world. that were being built. The alliance system. So the alliance system is complicated, but basically by 1907 there were two main alliance systems. Okay, you have the Triple Entente. These are going these this group is going to later become known as the Allies, and they consist of France, Britain, and Russia. You also have the Triple Alliance, which are going to be later known as the Central Powers, are consist of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. So, and I'm going to come back to this in a minute and kind of talk about when we get to the end of this first lesson. So yeah, here's the countries here. All right, and then what is the spark that's going to cause all these things to explode in June of 1914? Well, Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke of Austria, and his wife were visiting Sarajevo, Bosnia. He was on his goodwill tour to mend things with Bosnia. He published in his itinerary in the newspaper. Okay, and which is normal. That's something most brewers typically do. Nothing wrong with that. But the Black Hand, a terrorist group, yes, it sounds like a group from a comic book, I know, is from Serbia, and they were there as well. And they have many assassins, and most of them are either going to fail or they're going to be too chicken to pull the trigger. The first attempt, a man tried to throw a hand grenade, missed. A guy ended up jumping in a river and swallowed a cyanide capsule. Ferdinand then goes to City Hall and then the hospital to get checked out. On the way to the hospital, they make a wrong turn and have to recrank the engine. Well, a man who is part of the Black Hand, but is he was off duty that day, so he comes out. He's drunk, and he's like, "What the heck? Why is he not dead?" And he walks out of the restaurant to Ferdinand, and he shoots him and his wife Sophie, and they both die. Uh, but anyway, he's gonna try to run, but eventually he's caught. And this is going to be the event that sparks the First World War. Afterwards, newspapers in Sarajevo are going to cheer, but officially the Serbian government was not involved. There's no record saying that Serbian ever had anything to do with it. Why would they? So who's gonna get blamed though? Serbia, of course, and that's what Austria-Hungary did. The Serbians are given an ultimatum that they're not going to be able to commit to. All right, out of this, and Austria has to go to Germany for backup. Serbia gets backed up by Russia. Germany issues the blank check to Austria-Hungary. Basically, what that means, it's kind of like a whatever you need, it's yours. Okay, and money is not an option. And Russia mobilizes its army, and so Germany mobilizes its army. So this is you're kind of seeing how the alliances are being pulled in. And then July 28th, 1914, Austria declares war on Serbia. Britain tries to make peace, but this doesn't go well. Germany tries to make peace with France and Russia, but it's ultimately unrealistic. And so Germany ends up declaring war on Russia on August 1st and France on August 3rd, and August 3rd is considered the official date of the beginning of the war. And it's now a two-front war. And although the major powers are in Europe, we're going to see countries from all over the world get involved. China, Japan, Brazil and South America gets involved. Now, Australia, they don't all necessarily send troops, but they all play a role in some way. And now we're not going to explore every single country's involvement during the war, but we will talk about some of the important ones. All right. So, By 1914, like we said, Europe was divided into two rival camps. We have the Triple Entente with Great Britain, France, and Russia, and the Triple Alliance with Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy. Now, Austria's declaration of war against Serbia is going to set off a chain reaction with the alliance system, and where they pledge to support each other. And by mid-August of 1914, the battle lines are going to be drawn. Germany and Austria-Hungary are going to be on one side. The Central Powers, later joined by Bulgaria and the Ottoman Empire. Britain, France, and Russia is on the other side, and they're going to be known as the Allied Powers. Japan's going to join them, and Italy is going to join them. But wait, I thought Italy was part of the Triple Alliance. Well, if that's what you were thinking, then yes, you are correct. They had been a member of the Triple Alliance. The problem, though, is that the Italians blamed Germany and Austria-Hungary for starting an unjust war, and so they changed sides. And when it came to this war, this is probably the one war in history everybody, well, I don't know about that, but it's most people in wars typically think it's going to be short. We're all going to be home by Christmas, and that'll be that. But by the fall of 1914, the war is going to turn into a long and bloody stalemate. And the deadlocked region in the north is going to become known as the Western Front.